St. Francisville is about half an hour north of Baton Rouge, 2 hours north of New Orleans, also on the Mississippi River.
And how far are you right now from the Mississippi River as the crow flies? You're how far?
I can look out the window and see it.
Really?
Because we're on a bluff, and then our bank building that we bought is 2 stories tall, and I'm on the second story.
So you can see the Mississippi River. Gosh, that's lovely.
It is. And I think we're the lowest downtown, farthest down the river that has that kind of view.
And you grew up in St. Francisville.
Yes, my family were still kind of considered newcomers because we came in 1940, which in these parts is pretty recent. But my dad and mom met at LSU. They were both art students, and they ended up being farmers and moving up here to be farmers. My grandfather had already been the county agent up here.
And there were 4 girls in your family, right?
Yes, and I'm the baby, the caboose. And my mother made all of our clothes, quite a seamstress. I think that's what she did with her art degree, her talent. She put it into sewing. And so when I was little, she would dump the button tin out on the bed, and I would play with those buttons. And they were just, they speak to some of the best part of my childhood to me.
You went to LSU. Your husband's name is Donnie?
Yes.
And did you meet him while you were at LSU?
Yes, just like my parents. And he was working on his master's in wildlife biology, and I was a graduate student in English. So nothing to do with jewelry, either one of us.
And so did he ever practice wildlife biology when he got out of college?
He did for 7 years. He worked for a company called Coastal Environments, and they actually did some important work at that time. They were the first company to do the research to understand what was happening to the Louisiana coastline. He worked on a mapping project that discovered, you've heard the figure, we're losing 50 football fields of land every year.
Yeah.
They made that discovery back then.
Y'all went to St. Francisville, and he began to be as a vegetable farmer.
Yes, it was kind of a dream of ours, a kind of back to the land dream. And it was great fun, but it made absolutely no money. So he ended up, after 3 years, coming to work with Grandmother's Buttons as our business manager, which is really great because I have no aptitude, shall we say, for accounting or any of that. A little bit of history about why it's called Grandmother's Buttons.
Yeah, please.
My grandmother was 95 when we moved back here to be farmers. We had lived in Baton Rouge for a few years. And she might be called a hoarder today, or maybe a borderline hoarder. She kept everything. She was born in 1889, so that was a house full of stuff. And she had 30 boxes of buttons. And I would go visit her when we first moved back home. It was almost an archaeological experience, to look through the layers of 95 years of life. And one afternoon, we got into her buttons, and I was looking for a way to make some extra income at the time because farming, wasn't producing much income. And I remember seeing some beautiful sparkling jet glass buttons and saying, "Grandma, these would make great earrings." And just a few weeks later, I was selling button earrings at a crafts fair. And then now we sell, to 800 stores. So it's been an interesting ride. I've always thought that having this business it put together my 2 passions of art from my parents and their history with art, and then also my love of old things from growing up in St. Francisville.
The thing I enjoyed the most on your website was what you called, I thought it was a beautiful name, the Field Guide to Buttons, like the Field Guide to Birds. Tell us about that.
Jewelry to about 800 stores around the country, and even in Canada and New Zealand. And, because so many of the buttons we use are really old, from the 1880s and 90s, they're ornate little pieces of jewelry almost that people sewed onto their clothing. A lot of our customers didn't understand what was the button. They were looking for something with 4 holes. And so we had to produce the Field Guide to Buttons so people would understand the different kinds of buttons we use.
And when did you buy the bank building that you occupy? We have a picture of that. That's the feature picture on our story. I think the building is pink. Is it not? Is it pink?
It's a kind of a faded brick red, yeah. Oh gosh, we bought that in 1995, and that was just the greatest bit of luck for us. it had been a bank until 1985, and then it various things. It was an antique mall. When we bought it, it was home to the district attorney in St. Francisville, but the owner had decided to sell, and we were younger then. It was just a big risk for us. It has been the best thing we ever did in business. It's 1905, two-story brick, kind of a Romanesque revival building. And so downstairs we have our gift store with the jewelry and all kinds of other things. The bank vault is our button museum, and that's the best thing. Just who else has a button museum in a bank vault? And then, of course, we run the company and make the jewelry upstairs.
Well, we have pictures of all of it on our story. And so, and upstairs, you're actually producing the jewelry, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
And what's that behind you, all those drawers? Is that part of your buttons?
Yes, this is a card catalog in our office. We use it to contain buttons, and also we use vintage cabochons and other old vintage glass pieces that we mix into our jewelry. So this is I'm in our design room right now, and in fact, Amber, one of our designers, is right across from me, putting together our ideas for our spring introduction of jewelry.
You go to 4 different markets, I guess, where retail stores come and buy products to sell in their stores. And
Yeah.
And you and your husband go together, is that right, to the markets?
Well, no, he usually stays home and keeps things running here. I think you may have gathered, he's the steady force in this company. And then I go with Anna. We have sort of a sales manager, Christy. She and I go to New York, Atlanta, Dallas, and it is just 3 markets now. We used to do Chicago, but sadly that market just closed.
Is your home there in St. Francisville, or do you live outside?
No, we live out in the country, and it's my dad's farm that they bought, about 1941, and it's still a working cattle farm. We lease the land, though, to someone who farms it. And so we get the best of both worlds. I'm here in the historic district during work every day, the beautiful flowers and homes. I saw you had a thing about the day the war stopped from the Civil War on your website, and we're 1 block away from Grace Church, the old Episcopal church where that happened. So I get that, and then I get to go home to the country, which I love.
Mm-hmm. No more vegetable farming?
No, sometimes we have a garden on our own, but we're pretty busy with this business. And then also we have this great farmers market where we can buy things we don't have to grow them ourselves.
And how many people do you have there? I guess it fluctuates through the year working with you.
Right. Full-time about 10, and then altogether with part-timers that make the jewelry and work in the store about 20.
Right. Now, what kind of people are button collectors? Is there a particular type of person who does that?
Oh, well, boy, that's going to be hard to address. Button collectors, all of their love of fashion and beauty goes into finding these tiny little jewels of the past. And so they're not really interested so much in art or fashion in any other sense. It's all about the button. And button collectors get together in national conventions and they compete. It's a very structured way they compete. They'll have a certain size board. You can have 20 buttons on it, and they'll have a competition, say, for the most beautiful buttons that depict butterflies and were made before 1918. But we buy button collections. When the family maybe doesn't want to keep the button collection, and they put it up for sale, that's where we get a lot of our buttons.
When is that convention, that button collectors convention?
It's every August, and it moves around the country, different places.
And what's the name of the organization, the Button Collectors Organization?
The National Button Society.
The National Button Society. And so you've owned this business now for how many years?
29 years now, I guess. We just went to 29, and so next year's our 30th anniversary, and we're having fun thinking about everything we'll do to celebrate that. Well, and we still use the Victorian buttons. I mean, over half of our pieces still have buttons that are 100 to 120 years old.
Susan, thank you so much for talking with us. I really appreciate it.